A silent voice, the weight of silence. Shoya Ishida was once the king of noise. In 6th grade, he was restless, reckless, always looking for a thrill. He wasn't cruel out of malice. He was cruel out of boredom. His classmates followed him, laughed at his antics, and the classroom became his stage. Then Shoko Nishimiya transferred in, a gentle girl with soft eyes and notebooks full of written messages. She introduced herself with sign language and explained that she was deaf. The room fell silent, uncertain. But Shoya, ever hungry for attention, turned her silence into a weapon. He mimicked her speech, tore away her hearing aids, and mocked her at every chance. The class laughed. Shoko smiled through it, trying to make friends despite the pain. But each day her smile grew weaker, and each day Shoya grew bolder. Until one day, the line was crossed. The teachers noticed and the bullying could no longer be ignored. But instead of standing together, Shoya's classmates turned on him. The same kids who laughed with him condemned him. Shoya became the scapegoat. Nishimiya eventually transferred schools carrying fresh scars, and Shoya was left behind, labeled as a bully, marked by silence. From then on, the noise that once filled his life disappeared. As he grew older, Shoya carried his guilt like a stone. He withdrew into himself, unable to look people in the eyes. He imagined giant X marks plastered over everyone's faces, symbols of his inability to connect. He lived in a bubble of silence, not because he couldn't hear, but because he didn't believe he deserved to. By the time he reached high school, Shoya was consumed by despair. In the opening scenes of the film, he quietly arranges his life to end. He sells his belongings, repays his mother for the damages he caused as a child, and plans his death with chilling precision. But at the last moment, he pauses. There is one thing he must do before leaving this world: see Shoko Nishimiya again. Their reunion is painfully awkward. Shoya approaches her at the sign language center where she studies. She is startled, unsure of his intentions. But Shoya, fumbling and trembling, extends her notebook, the same one she used years ago to communicate with her classmates. He writes one word: friends? To his surprise, she agrees. That single fragile connection sparks the beginning of change. Shoya learns sign language, practicing clumsily but sincerely. He visits her family, though Shoko's younger sister Yuzuru greets him with fury, convinced he will only hurt her again. He apologizes, not once but many times, though no apology feels enough. Slowly, through persistence and vulnerability, he begins to earn their trust. As the days pass, their bond deepens. Shoya does not ask for forgiveness. He simply stays, listens, and tries to give Shoko the kindness he once denied her. Shoko, in turn, shows him a grace that seems impossible. Despite the torment she endured, she reaches out to him, gently drawing him back into the world he abandoned. But healing is never simple. The past is a tangled web, and Shoya cannot move forward without facing the friends he once lost. Through Shoko, he reconnects with former classmates: Nagatsuka, a lonely boy who becomes his loudest supporter; Miyoko, who once tried to defend Shoko but abandoned her out of fear; Miki, who insists she was never complicit; Satoshi, who still resents Shoya deeply. Each reunion reopens old wounds. Arguments flare, tears are shed, and the group fractures under the weight of guilt and denial. The film refuses easy answers. Bullying is not undone with a single apology, and wounds cannot simply be forgotten. In the midst of this chaos, Shoya and Shoko grow closer. Their bond takes on the tender shape of something like love, unspoken, hesitant, yet powerful. But beneath Shoko's smile lies a deep sadness. She blames herself for the suffering of others, believing she is a burden. She sees the pain in Shoya's eyes and feels it is her fault. Her self-loathing festers in silence, until one night, it nearly consumes her. On a quiet evening, during a fireworks display, Shoko tells Shoya she is going home to study. Instead, she climbs onto her balcony railing. With the river glimmering below, she prepares to leap. At the last second, Shoya realizes the truth and rushes to her side. In a desperate struggle, he manages to grab her hand, pulling her back, but loses his own balance. He falls, crashing into the river below. For a moment, it feels like the end. But Shoya does not die. He lingers unconscious, suspended between life and death, while Shoko, devastated, sits at his bedside, weeping. When he finally wakes, her tears are the first thing he sees. It is a moment of raw clarity. Shoya understands that his life is no longer his to throw away. There are people who would grieve for him, just as he grieved for her. Redemption is not about erasing mistakes. It is about choosing again and again to live. The climax comes at the school festival. Surrounded by classmates and crowds, the noise of life threatens to overwhelm him. For years, Shoya has kept his head down, hands pressed over his ears, shutting out the world. But now, with Shoko and his friends at his side, he lifts his gaze. One by one, the imagined X marks peel away from the faces around him. For the first time since childhood, he allows himself to hear, not just sound, but life itself. Laughter, voices, the rush of the world. He breaks into tears, not from despair, but from release. Themes and symbolism. A silent voice is not just about bullying. It is about the echoes of cruelty, the scars that linger long after the act, and the fragile, painful work of healing. Silence and sound. Shoko's deafness is both literal and symbolic. She lives in silence yet communicates through persistence and warmth. Shoya chooses silence, closing himself off out of shame. Only when both begin to truly listen to each other and themselves do they find connection. Redemption versus forgiveness. Shoya does not earn easy redemption. Shoko does not simply forgive and forget. The film portrays redemption as a choice made daily, to live, to care, to try again. Forgiveness, if it comes, is not a gift owed but a fragile possibility born of time and sincerity. Isolation and connection. The X marks over people's faces represent Shoya's alienation. He sees the world as hostile, unreachable. When the marks fall away, it is not because the world has changed, it is because he has opened himself to it again. Suicide and survival. Both Shoya and Shoko consider ending their lives. Both are pulled back by the other. Their bond is not one of perfection or romantic fantasy, but of survival. Two broken people choosing, again and again, to keep going together. Closing, a silent voice does not offer a fairy tale ending. There is no grand confession of love, no sweeping absolution. Instead, it leaves us with something quieter, but infinitely more powerful. The sight of two people who once stood on the edge of silence, now walking forward into the noise of life. Shoya Ishida began as a boy who drowned out his own guilt with cruelty. Shoko Nishimiya began as a girl who drowned her pain in silence. By the end, they have not erased their scars, but they have chosen to carry them, side by side. It is not a story of forgetting the past. It is a story of living despite it. And that, more than anything, is the truest silent voice.